Eddoes already peeled and it's in water just so it doesn't go discolored. I'll just show you how we got to this point here. This is what the Eddoes looks like, and yeah, jokingly, I've heard people say it looks like scrotes, but anyhow, let me go there. Let me go there, alright? Anyhow, this is the Eddoes here. They can be smaller, they can be bigger. I noticed the ones we get here in Canada out of Brazil is a lot bigger than this. And all you need is a paring knife. Well, first of all, you want to make sure when you're buying it, all over is nice and firm. If you find that your finger is sinking into it, it means that one is going bad. Don't buy that one. All you would do is using a paring knife. That sort of discoloration means you need to go a little bit deeper. Here's a little bit of discoloration again. We're going to trim that off. And then just the thickness of the skin, you're going to go down. When I mean down, I mean go down, skirts, boy. Chris, where is you? Oh boy. Anyhow, paring knife or potato peeler. And Eddoes is a ground provision, which means it grows in the dirt just like potato. While it's easy for me to say it does take on the taste of potato, in reality it has more of a nutty taste. It almost reminds me of walnuts. Now you're seeing me use my bare hands here. What I may recommend is it can cause your fingers and your hands to itch. If your skin is sensitive, you will run into that problem. So what I would recommend doing is one of two things: wear gloves, two, coat your hands with a bit of vegetable oil before you peel it. You'll give this a good rinse now, and that is what I have here, and then we'll chop it up. And there really isn't a science to chopping it up. You can just go ahead and cut it into thick slices like so. If you wanted to cut it into chunky pieces, you can do that as well. The thing to keep in mind, the bigger you cut it, the longer it will take to cook. So I'm just doing a few pieces chunky, or you can go down the center. Now be very careful. It can be a bit slimy, a bit slippery. So when you're working with your knife, just be a bit careful, yeah? I'm gonna just chop this up, give it another rinse, and then we'll jump to actually cooking. I've got a tablespoon and a half of olive oil in there. It's a light olive oil, that's why it doesn't have much color to it. But you can use any oil you like: coconut oil, a regular extra virgin olive oil, vegetable oil, corn oil, whatever oil you want you can use. It's totally up to you. Now I must say this, I'm doing this one strictly vegan / vegetarian. But the classic way I was told that my grandmother would do this is with salted cod. So in the oil, she would add prepared salted cod in there. Get that nice salt fish flavor in there before adding anything else. So if you wanted to do that, or you want me to show you that version, drop a comment down below, and I can shoot a video. It's easy. This is a very simple recipe, by the way. My heat is on medium, and I'm gonna go in with a large onion. I'm just going to move that around and turn my heat down to low because I don't want to burn the onion. It's all about creating that base of flavor. We always talk about that every time I share a recipe. In goes some fresh ground black pepper. And I'm just going to let this soften up for a minute. In goes some garlic. And you gotta love that scent of onions in any sort of hot oil or butter or anything like that. Man, it's classic scent, in my humble opinion. My heat is on low, as I said, because I don't want to burn the onion nor the garlic. It's just about flavoring everything. If you wanted to crush the garlic, you can crush it. I like it in big chunky pieces like this, because as this cooks down, later on when I'm eating, I'll get little hints of garlic. Pow pow on my sada roti. Way to go to eat this. For a bit of kick, I like adding a green Scotch bonnet pepper in there, which means it's not fully mature, so it's not that raw heat. I included the seeds because I do want a slight heat on there. If you don't have Scotch bonnet pepper, or if heat is not your thing, don't fret. You know what I mean to say? If you have habanero, I love the fruitiness of a habanero pepper as well. Just use you know, to your tolerance. If you don't like heat, well, don't use it, and then adjust the heat level. If you wanted to remove the seeds and the white membrane surrounding the seeds of the pepper, that will cut back on some of the heat. Heat is still on low, by the way. At this point, I like adding a little bit of Caribbean green seasoning. And Caribbean green seasoning is merely a blend or a puree of all the herbs we like using in our dishes, whether it's a vegan or vegetarian meal like this, or maybe it's a fish, chicken, pork, beef, oxtail, whatever it is we're cooking. Your goat just love Caribbean green seasoning too. So all we're gonna do is let that sort of pull out all the flavors. And in my green seasoning, I have an assortment of peppers in there. I have shadow benny, I have cilantro, I have parsley, scallions, I have seasoning peppers, you know, pimento peppers in there. I have a ton of garlic, and that recipe can be found on CaribbeanPot.com. The base for my green seasoning is olive oil to help maintain the vibrancy, the color, plus all the wonderful flavors. And a lot of people use water in their green seasoning or vinegar. I try to avoid that. So now we're just going to let that simmer for about 4 minutes before we continue. Just giving that another little stir just to make sure everything is coming into contact with that hot oil. It's been about 5 minutes since we started. So all I'm going to do now is hit it another quick stir, and then we're going to start adding all of the Eddoes to the pot. And being gentle, I could have used a bigger saucepan. I just want to toss this around and make sure the pieces of Eddoes are coated in that lovely oil, sort of flavored oil that we started off with there. I'm going to turn my heat up to medium high because we got to put some water in here now. We're going to cover it with water, bring it up to a boil. It will take anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to cook. And all we're trying to do is get it nice and soft. Before we add water, I'm just going in with some sea salt. You can use any salt that you like. I'm just going to add a bit more water, but before I add the water, I just want to scrape the bottom, the flat surface here, and some of these ones that I cut flat may tend to stick on you. All I'm going to do is scrape that, and then I'm going to add some more water, bring it up to a boil, and then reduce it to a simmer. I've got a somewhat vigorous bubble happening here. So what I'm going to do is turn on my heat to medium-low. We want it on a simmer, and we just want to cook this until it's nice and tender, and you know, we want it to fall apart. And that will be part of the personalization you'll have to do later on. It's two things. You'll taste it for salt and adjust it. And the second thing is whether you want it really saucy or with some gravy, or if you want it dry, as well as if you want it totally broken down, or if you want it, you know, I can't say nice and chunky, but chunky, you know, with a bit of texture. So, but for now, let's make sure we cook it tender first. And then we'll get to the other elements. What's up, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me, email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. So many Caribbean dishes, anything old school. It wasn't ever about looking pretty, because, and you know, that's probably one of the reasons why as a kid growing up on the islands, this was not a favorite of mine, just by looking at it, right? But I'm telling you, as an adult, I man love this bad, because all I need is some salad roti. And this here is what I would refer to as comfort food. Now, if it had the salt fish or the salted cod in there, yo, even better. But for now, we're keeping this vegan, as I said, vegetarian. It's been 20 minutes, and you can see it got nice and thick. If you want it now, you can use the back of your spoon or whatever you have, and you can crush it like so, and that will thicken up further. So you have two things to do here now. Taste it for salt, adjust that salt. Then you have the option of making this thicker if you wanted to, or leaving it as it is. I am not going to eat this with sada roti, as I said, so I want this gravy, I want this sauce. So I'm going to give this 2 more minutes on the stove here, then I'm going to shut things down. So With that said, Chris here, CaribbeanPod.com. Always a pleasure having you all in the kitchen with me. Vegan, vegetarian, Eddoes Talkari. You really want to give this one a try once you have access to Eddoes. Irie. What's up, soldiers? Don't forget to click subscribe. If you've already clicked subscribe, hit that bell notification thing. I want to all you missing out on the new videos, man. Come on, click.